Hello everyone! This week I have something a little different for you. So recently road.cc, the website, posted an article about the changes that have been proposed to this road, which is Priory Lane. And since I live so nearby, I thought I'd go do a little ride down the road and video it to show you guys what the problem actually is. So as you can see, problem number one, it's a busy road. There's lots of pedestrians and cyclists and cars, and it's just outside of Richmond Park, so it's a road a lot of people use to get to the park for cycling and running and other things. The cycling path isn't on this section of the road, so you don't even get the start of the path till about a third of the way down this road. And apparently, and I didn't realize this was as bad as it is, but this road has had a lot of clashes with cyclists and cars. And what happens is the cars see the cycling lane and they see the cyclists using the road. So the reason cyclists use the road, which I'm sure you're all familiar with the reasons, is because it's the better option. So as you'll see coming down here, the pedestrians on the left don't have very much space. So obviously they expand into the cycling path, and I don't blame them because it's not wide enough. Secondly, the path is in pretty rubbish condition. It's not very well surfaced compared to the road, which is pretty decent. The stabilization on my GoPro here is smoothing it out a bit. You can see it by looking at the surface. It's not very good. And so the third problem is this. You have to yield to every side road. Now, if you're in the road, you don't. You have the right of way. So why would you go in the cycling path and have to yield to every oncoming road rather than just take the main road and have the right of way? It doesn't make any sense. And as you could also see a second ago, this is a two-way cycle track. It's the width of a one-way cycle track, but it's intended as a two-way use because, as you can see on the right-hand side of the road, there is no cycle path on that side. And this is ridiculously narrow to be a two-way cycle track with a ridiculously narrow sidewalk for the pedestrians. So you just end up with all kinds of clashes with pedestrians and other cyclists and having to yield to side roads and having to go slow. It's just no good reason to take this cycle path if you're a competent cyclist. As I was riding up and down this road, I found out it is actually a 20-mile-an-hour zone, as it should be because it is a cycling route. But it's so hard to see those little teeny tiny signs, and they are teeny tiny, placed very high on those poles. I'm not sure most drivers realize this is a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. And then as we come to the end of this cycle track, you will see an outcropping of poles. A bunch of pointless, I can't understand why they're there, poles. So a whole whack of obstacles. They're very busy, a lot going on. I don't understand at all what the point of those poles are. If anybody knows, please let me know. So as you can see, I'm not a big fan of this cycling path, and I don't imagine who is. It's a bit pointless, it's a bit aggravating, and the cars get aggravated when the cyclists don't use it, and they rightly don't use it. So you may wonder what the proposed changes are. They have proposed widening the sidewalk to the proper 2 meter width and putting an advisory cycle lane in, though I'm not sure I can understand how they'll fit a cycle lane on both sides of the roads that's a proper width. So I'm not really a fan of that proposal. I am a fan of making the sidewalk the proper width, but it's a cycle route. Cyclists have the right to use the road. I say enforce the 20-mile-an-hour limit, which there are plans to put tables in place, cycle-friendly tables. And I say leave it at that. If you put an advisory lane in, my feeling is the cars will attempt to pass you, and as long as they're not in the lane, they'll feel like that's enough safe passing distance, and it's not magic paint, as some drivers seem to think it is. So I prefer, if there's not enough room for a proper cycling lane that's protected, forget about the advisory on a narrow road like this. It's just going to invite more trouble with close passes, so I don't think it's a good idea. There's just not enough room, and I think that should be accepted. So I think enforcing the 20-mile-an-hour limit and making it a road that everybody uses and has to share and get along. And I just want to send a shout out to the Hope and Knowledge Cycling Club that I ran into while cycling back up Priory Lane. I ended up joining their group briefly, and they are training to ride from London to Margate at the end of March, and this ride was one of their training rides. So I wish them all luck, and it was great to meet you and talk to you.